Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Michael Trim Show. I'm your host, Michael Trim. Today's episode is going to cover this document right here. So I've got a big, massive document. It's a couple hundred pages long. And we're going to be discussing this, and we're also going to be talking about how the Trump administration has announced new plans to combine the Department of Labor with the Department of Education. So we're going to be exploring that. We're going to be talking about some Q posts. We're going to talk about some other small things. But this episode will be right around 45 minutes, maybe an hour in length. So with that being said, I want to ask everyone to please spread the links out to various platforms. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Gab, and click on the notification bell and stuff like that. And if you can, consider doing a super chat. So what I want to do is we're going to start with just looking at this indictment. It's not an indictment, actually. Excuse me. It's just a lawsuit filed. My mistake. But this lawsuit was filed by Gary Brine, and it's a RICO complaint against the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Gustra Enterprise Partnership, Media Matters for America, Correct the Record, American Bridge 21st Century, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, Share Blue, Corporation Trust Company, Registered Agent for True Blue Media, LLC, David Brock, William Jefferson Clinton, Hillary Rodham Clinton, George Soros, John Podesta, Jan Jaluli, Jonathan Wackrow, and numerous unnamed defendants. So this allegation here, this RICO allegation against the Clinton Foundation, doesn't mention, Podesta the molester, what people are saying in the comments. It doesn't refer to that. It doesn't refer to any of the Pizzagate stuff, any of the Pedogate stuff at all. Instead, what it focuses on, it starts out with Viva la Resistance. Lisa Page, quote, Trump's not going to become president, right? Peter Strzok, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Lisa Page, you're meant to protect the country from that menace, being Trump. And Peter replies, I can protect our country. So, there's some of the language. This document I'm going to read, but it's not going to be read on air, and it's not going to be... I don't think anyone would want to listen to me read for 210 pages. I struggle with reading enough on my own. I don't need any extra help. So, from that, what I wanted to do was just focus on the fact that, so this page here, page 175, if anybody has the PDF, it does say, Enterprise surrogate Huma Abedin intentionally copied and sent State Department emails. Hang on one second. All right, how was that? All right, sorry, I had audio feedback on my end, and I had to fix it. So, some containing confidential information to later convicted sex offender Anthony Weiner's laptop, and lied to the FBI about the fact that confidential emails may have been accessed by foreign agents posing as underage girls attempting to entice known pedophile Anthony Weiner. That was bullet point number 655. There are hundreds of these bullet points listed through this. Hundreds of them. And I wanted to just kind of highlight to you the conclusions of this this lawsuit. Because I think just the conclusions could give us a pretty good high-level view of the scope of what this is trying to, I guess, perpetrate. Let's see if I can pull it down. Timely pun, right? Yeah. I think sometimes I do timely puns. Sometimes I do not. I mean, so here's the things. We have, the conclusion is pretty big, okay? It's pretty big. This document's quite large, but if we skip over to section 5, which is RICO violations, which is right here. So you can see that, RICO violations. Here we have basically number 529. Upon information and belief, computer forensics from July 5th, 2016 indicate that the DNC emails implicating the enterprise were copied by an insider, someone affiliated with the DNC, via USB and not hacked via external actors. DNC professional staff member Seth Rich was murdered 5 days later on July 10th, 2016. So we have Seth Rich mentioned. We have, pedophiles mentioned from Anthony Weiner. We have the different statutes for RICO that they're looking at is 18 U.S.C. 1962, 18 U.S.C. 1962b, 18 statute ABCD. Then they look at the actual RICO enterprise itself, and they break it down into pieces here. And so they say the acts or threats involving bribery. Okay? So bribery, as applied to the enterprise, involves both acts and threats and implicates those bribing as well as those defendants being bribed. So we had bribery as a component of this. We have acts or threats involving extortion. The enterprise engaged in extortion and attempted to extortion affects interstates or foreign commerce, having done so in any way or degree, and conspired to do so among themselves and with the enterprise surrogates and participants. Acts or threats involving murder. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation of the foregoing paragraphs if the fully set forth herein. According to former Democratic National Committee chairperson acting Donna Brazile, she felt threatened by the Clintons, implying that they would have murdered her if she revealed any involvement in the hack of the DNC servers that did not fit the Enterprise's narrative of, quote, Russian involvement, end quote, prior to the 2016 presidential election. Brazile apparently felt further threatened by the Clintons might subject her to bodily harm or have her murdered if she revealed the Enterprise's role in rigging the Democratic primary in favor of Secretary Clinton. In an unrelated lawsuit, it is alleged but strongly contested that the parents of Seth Rich knew their son downloaded 44,053 inculpatory emails and 17,761 email attachments from the DNC server and sold them to WikiLeaks prior to the murder of Seth Rich. Okay? Number 529, upon information and belief, computer forensics from July 5th indicating that the DNC emails implicating the Enterprise were copied by an insider via USB and not hacked, and then Seth Rich was murdered. I just read that one. All right, so Section 4, acts of indictable relating to bribery. Hillary Clinton was a, quote, public official, end quote. At the times, she was bribed, and when she was she was an officer acting on behalf of the United States and performing official acts in her official capacity as the Secretary of State. We have the bribery section is quite large, but Section 5, acts to indictable relating to mail fraud, acts indictable relating to wire fraud, Okay. Here we have number 599. The Enterprise also conspired with surrogates Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Page, Brennan, and Clapper, among numerous other unknown named surrogates, to the FISA surreptitious wire surveillance process to fraudulently deny one political party, the Republican Party, a nonprofit entity, the honest opinion to prevail in a structured presidential political contest, and to that fraud, by and through the most fraudulent political process on record, to further a significant objective to the enterprise, i.e., assure that Hillary Clinton became President of the United States in order to continue their enterprise into perpetuity, and to destroy her enemies such as Officer Gary Brine. Section 7, acts indictable relating to obstruction of justice. There's a lot of content in this lawsuit, folks. Perhaps one of the moderators could paste the link in the description or the chat window for people to see. Section 9, indictable relating to the obstruction of state law enforcement. Acts indictable relating to the tampering of a victim, witness, or informant. Acts indictable related to the laundering of monetary instruments. Acts indictable relating to engaging in monetary transactions and property. Acts indictable relating to the use of interstate commerce facilities and the commission of murder for hire. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation of the foregoing paragraphs, if set forth herein. The enterprise and its participants caused, upon information and beliefs, others, including intended victims, to travel in interstate commerce or use or cause another, and their intended victims, to use the mail or facility of interstate commerce with the intent that murder will be committed in the violation of laws of any state in the United States. Number 751, as noted by DNC chairperson Donna Brazil, it is well known that the Clintons and their enterprise have caused to be murdered those who have crossed them. Computer forensics from July 5th indicate the DNC emails implicated in the enterprise were copied by an insider via USB and not hacked via external staff actors. DNC professional staff member Seth Rich was murdered 5 days later. Then we have causes of action. So we're going to read what these causes of actions are. So the first cause of action was acquisition and maintenance of an interest in or control of an enterprise engaged in pattern of racketeering activity. Second cause of action, conduct and participation in a RICO enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Third cause, conspiracy to engage in a pattern of racketeering activity. Fourth cause of action, pendent defamation claim under Arkansas law. Says number 785, printed publications, images, and online states. Example, quote, correct the record from the desk of David Brock, end quote. All may constitute libel in Arkansas, even if they were repeated millions of times on social media, weblog commentary, or related defamatory massives. 786. Slander, which occurred repeatedly in this case, is spoken or transitionary defamation. Bryan and Crisis were slandered repeatedly by Gahuli and Wackrow on the Communist News Network, CNN. So, the conclusion is really short. I'm going to just go through a high level of the conclusion for you. This is just for the new people who have joined the broadcast. I am looking into this lawsuit that was filed against the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Gustra Enterprise Partnership, Media Matters for America, We have Correct the Record, American Bridge 21st Century, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, Share Blue, Corporation Trust Company, David Brock, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, John Podesta, Jonathan Rachno, and Jan Julian. And this lawsuit was filed in order to start taking down this racketeering operation. And so racketeering may not be the crime that they're actually going to go after with the Clintons, but this was just filed on 6/15/2018, and it's a total of 210 pages that was acquired from Pacer and sent to me, and I printed it out. Actually, to give a little plug here, I just want to let people know that if you're in the United States and you want to read something like the Inspector General's report, but you're like, well, it's 568 pages. That's really hard to read on my computer, or it's really hard to read on like an iPad. You can actually, through Staples, you can actually order the printed copies. This was $40 to get this printed. Okay? They printed the full binder of the Inspector General's report, and this allows me to print off the pieces here. It allows me to highlight sections that are important, and to point out to you that this right here on page 294 talked about the following. Coleman told us that he kept regular notes in a journal. Coleman's notes from October 4th contain the following entry. Anthony Weiner, unrelated. Weiner texting 15-year-old, sexually explicit. 926, Federal SW, iPhone, iPad, laptop. Initial analysis of laptop. Thousands of emails. Hillary Clinton and Foundation. Crimes against children. So this was page 294 in the Inspector General report that people, in the media and in the hearings and testimonies have decided to ignore. But at the end of the day, the moderators have added the links in the comments, so thank you, Mr. Gossamer, for doing that. But let's get back to this lawsuit first, and let's figure out what the conclusion is. 793. In anticipation of filing this complaint, it is imperative to point out that several enterprise schemes involving numerous criminal acts and what appear to be a significant cover-up within the holdover legacy FBI and DOJ have only recently come to light and continue to be exposed. Discovery in this case will inevitably include significant additional inculpatory evidence concerning the enterprise operational schemes at the issue at this lawsuit. So the person who filed this lawsuit, I believe, was a former Secret Service operative named Gary Brine, and on the first page it says, actual home address withdrawn due to death threats and related danger to plaintiff from enterprise defendants, surrogates, participants, and others. Such address can be provided to the district court under seal. So, 794. It is clear that these enterprise participants, included but not limited to its surrogates and collaborators, have misled their Article 3 counterparts, i.e., whatever federal judge was or is assigned to the relevant FISA matter. 795. Abuse of the FISA process is not only illegal and a threat to our structural constitutional form of government under which FISA operates, it is a direct affront and a slap in the face to the chief judge of this honorable district court, the chief judge of the FISA court, and the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, who appoints the life-tenured judges who dual hat as FISA judges. Department of Justice has now allowed all members and designees of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees to review significant material with direct relation to the issues in this lawsuit. This will represent an opportunity for the court in determining the non-credibility of the enterprise defendants and surrogates and drawing appropriate inferences of corrupt enterprise intents. To be shown to the enterprise scheme to illegally undertake a fraud on the FISA court in pursuit to their surreptitious surveillance of the Trump campaign officials based upon a standard far lower than that set forth in the Fourth Amendment in our Constitution. The enterprise malfeasances, including inter alia, misleading the Article 3 FISA judge in an attempt to win an election and during FISA, and using FISA as a tool to damage the lives, businesses, and employees of political enemies, also destroys the delicate balance forged in 1978 between the executive, who seceded power, and the legislative, which is balanced gain oversight authority. But that thoughtful structure is now at grave risk. And it is certainly not lost on this court that what Enterprise has done, both to Gary Bryan and to other private citizens, who is now our president, is the utilization of FISA and the abuse of the trust inherited in the delicate balance therein, and other counterintelligence authorities, such as Human Confidential and Sources, to defeat a political opponent in the fashion intended to be utilized to defeat, inter alia, international terrorists. In a deep departure from the United States law and our constitutional norms, the Obama Justice Department, as set forth herein, misled at least one Article 3 federal judge, sitting as a FISA judge, in seeking a surveillance order or warrant for surveilling a United States citizen, that they were presumptively relying on a fake dossier based upon knowing disinformation provided by the Russian SVR and financed by the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign for president, knowingly relied upon said Russian SVR disinformation and compiled by foreign people. Steele, who concedes openly that he sought to defeat President Donald John Trump and elect Hillary Clinton as the 45th president. Enterprise principals and surrogates lied to the FBI and obstructed justice in order to illegally mislead Article 3 federal judges in approving a FISA warrant that surreptitiously surveilled United States citizens. The FBI used robust counterintelligence techniques with adequate cause against a political candidate they disfavored, and against those like plaintiff they feared would harm their favored candidate. Several months after Steele signed a contract with Fusion GPS to create a dossier on private citizen Donald John Trump Sr., Steele discovered his research was being subsidized by the Hillary Clinton for President campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Despite this conceded knowledge and Steele's admission that he wanted to see Trump defeated, the Department of Justice and FBI FISA warrant application stated Steele didn't know who was funding him. The abuse of the FISA court is the worst violation of the FISA statute in history, and together with the use of the counterintelligence authorities to run HCSs and lures against political opponent constituents, yet another form of enterprise sedition in attempting to misuse the FISA court and counterintelligence processes to undermine a duly certified and inaugurated president. At the very least, any FISA court judge, had they granted the application and then subsequently learned that the Department of Justice was then responsible to inform them that the information was sourced, notwithstanding that it was financed, by the DNC and the Clinton campaign, would have to rescind the authorization and issue a show cause order to the government to explain who and why this sourcing was not made known to the court. The FISA court and this court were not properly informed of the counterintelligence abuse. The fact that the Justice Department told the FISA court that it was a political source, but did not identify who, in this particular instance, is highly probative that the governments purposely misled the court, which is also facing scrutiny due to the friendship with the FBI enterprise surrogates, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and failure to recuse by a FISA court judge. By and in relation to every crime and predicated act herein, directly in support of the predicated thereof, tens of thousands of text messages between FBI colleagues Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, constituting wire fraud have established, thus released so far, and will further establish, those withheld so far, the enterprise wrongdoing at the highest levels of the FBI and the Department of Justice. On or around the time of filing this complaint, the Department of Justice Inspector General will issue one of several ongoing reports relevant to this RICO matter. In addition to the testimony that Strzok and Page will both be required to provide their discussions that were not captured in the tens of thousands of probative text message exchanges. In short, there is much more to come establishing the depth and breadth of this enterprise and the specific dates, names, and clear intentions of preventing an electoral outcome and failing that, removing a duly certified president and undermining their own government. The Department of Justice Inspector General has within its possession and upon the assurance of this report addressing the Strzok-Page wrongdoing in the Hillary Clinton email espionage, will release evidence further proving the enterprise's wrongdoing set forth herein. Although espionage, bribery, and sedition, among many things, may be inherent to Secretary Clinton's acts on behalf of the enterprise, the use of the DOJ, FBI, and NSA, who must run, maintain, and otherwise, quote, weaponize the electronic surveillance, the wrongdoing committed by the enterprise and its surrogates and collaborators, is this case an immeasurable in its danger and to simply without comparison in the annuals of counterintelligence abuse to destroy political enemies, pre or post FISA. By way of recent example, Defendant John Podesta, working with the enterprise and the Center for American Progress, a non-profit partisan entity he founded, is engaged in international disinformation campaign meant to discredit current investigators in Congress and further undermine the United States government using taxpayer funds, primarily through a wholly partisan CAP undertaking known as the Moscow Project. The Moscow Project, in turn, coordinates its work with the enterprise surrogate Jones and the group of mega funders led by Defendant Soros, who have engaged enterprise surrogates Fusion GPS to further undermine the United States government. The Center for American Progress, as noted, a wholly partisan, non-profit organization founded by former White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, has for over 5 years been lobbying without registering such lobbying under FARA or on behalf of foreign governments. In addition to espionage and sedition, the enterprise utilized prototypical crime syndicate tactics, such as attempting to tamper with the special counsel's investigation of enterprise surrogate Robert S. Mueller. On enterprise instruction, enterprise surrogates Strzok and Page have also destroyed the culpability of certain DOJ and FBI hard drives containing inculpatory evidence against the enterprise. Without the knowledge of their director, the FBI, on behalf of the enterprise, provided materially false statements to the Senate Judiciary Committee, based in turn upon illegal false statements provided by the FBI to the FBI by Christopher Steele, which the FBI knew to be false, and refer in the referral of Steele for prosecution, corroborating the allegations of the HPSCI concerning what is described herein as the enterprise wrongdoing, further implicates the FBI as Steele's handler, knowing of his Hillary for America funding. In a statement provided on January 23, 2018, by the United States Senator Ronald Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, Senator Johnson, revealed that the enterprise surrogates Peter Strzok and Lisa Page conspired routinely during and directly after the 2016 election with the group of Clinton/Enterprise loyalists within the FBI and DOJ to undermine the Trump presidency, and were planning yet another cover-up of their criminal activity involving inculpatory text messages between them, joining the principles of the enterprise set forth in Exhibit A. Hereto the DOJ and FBI participants affiliated with the Bruce Orr enterprise surrogates Fusion GPS, and numerous named unknowns who have, if the accused by Senator Johnson is confirmed following yet another investigation, chosen to undermine their own government and expose themselves in continuing criminal liability in conjunction with the enterprise. The chairman of the United States House of Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, HPSCI, after conducting a lengthy investigation of Hillary Clinton enterprise tactics, stated that, quote, "We have a clear Clinton link to Russia. You have a campaign who hired a law firm, who hired Fusion GPS, who hired a foreign agent, who then got information from the Russians on the other campaign," end quote. Then, quote, "Counterintelligence investigation should have been opened up against the Hillary Clinton campaign when they got a hold of the dossier, but it didn't happen either," end quote. The chairman of HPSCI, Devin Nunes, Republican of California, also on record as concluding the massive FISA and other HCS counterintelligence abuses of the responsible enterprise actors noted herein. As Congress and the executive branch continues to expose criminal enterprise crimes, members of the HPSCI and the Senate Committee for Judiciary have also uncovered the 2016 involvement of the Obama State Department in assisting the enterprise in attempting to swing the election for Hillary Clinton. According to these members, enterprise surrogates Sidney Blumenthal, Cody Schreier, and State Department official Jonathan Weiner engaged in analogous enterprise tactics in assembling yet another Trump dossier using Fusion GPS to pay Christopher Steele to put together the dossier and instruct him what to include. Brennan, Clapper, and other enterprise surrogates must also answer under oath during the pendency of this litigation and before a punitive grand jury. Concerning inter alia, the role of the inexcusable collusion with the Hannigan investigatory abuse prior to the operational Crossfire hurricane, FISA abuse, and HCS abuse while they attempt to deliver the presidency to Hillary Clinton. On March 29, 2018, the Attorney General of the United States announced that he has assigned the Department of Justice Inspector General to investigate alleged violations of criminal and civil laws by Department of Justice employees, including actions taken by former employees after they have left the government service. That role of the DOJ Inspector General has grown exponentially and has resulted in criminal referrals of several of the most senior DOJ FBI officials for prosecution. As part of the March 29th announcement by the Attorney General of the United States, Attorney General Sessions emphasized that he has assigned the United States Attorney for the District of Utah, John Huber, originally commissioned by the Obama administration but renominated by President Trump in 2017 for an additional 4-year term, to both investigate, commend, and consistent with, inter alia, the DOJ IG and Congress, wrongdoing by those actions undertaken by the enterprise and described herein. And the DOJ IG will, if when the IG finds evidence of criminal wrongdoing, the DOJ IG may refer that criminal malfeasance to Huber or another United States attorney, who can then convene a grand jury or take other appropriate actions. 823. Because the findings of the current and numerous panel investigations, including but not limited to the ongoing matter with relation to the United States Attorney Huber and the Department of Justice Inspector General, it's anticipated that another significant trove of evidence will be available in the near future for consideration into and use during this lawsuit. It is also anticipated that if significant wrongdoing with respect to the Obama Justice Department and FBI is uncovered, it will be referred for prosecution either another special counsel or will be appointed to a United States attorney assigned with a broad scope, including investigating of the Mueller investigators, thereby providing additional evidence for the instant cause of action. It is not only plausible that conclusively that the defamatory attacks against the plaintiff, Gary Brine, were inextricably intertwined with the counterintelligence abuses brought to bear against those who were considered, quote, enemies of the enterprise. What began as the enterprise operational scheme to place a second Clinton in the Oval Office has now been discovered to be, based only upon information and belief of informants, testimony to Congress and the Department of Justice, the destruction of enterprise, quote, enemy Gary Bryan, and a constitutional crisis created by the enterprise surrogates among high-level Obama administration FBI and DOJ officials. It is incumbent upon this and any other Article 3 court and the end of the enterprise operational scheme that has destroyed any professional prospects for Officer Gary Bryan and, working together, carried out the operational scheme in secret to destabilize the United States government and the 45th President of the United States, even going so far as to instruct Peter Strzok to initiate within the FBI an investigation leading to impeachment, just prior to Peter Strzok being placed in the upper echelons of Mueller's special counsel team. Despite Peter Strzok's admission that the Mueller special counsel investigation involved pursuing a sitting president and numerous other United States citizens when nothing in particular consequence is at issue, quote, no there. A May 19th, 2017 text message from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page. The enterprise was and is a dangerous, organized criminal association threatening both our nation and individuals who, in the words of Donna Brazil, dare to, quote, cross them, end quote. The plaintiff officer, Gary Bryan, who apparently has crossed the Clintons and their affiliated enterprise, life is quite perilous and precarious. We ask the Honorable Court to intervene and provide the ability, even if the jury does not return all that is asked, to prevent the enterprise, as they won't, from murdering Officer Bryan and his family. So that was the conclusion of this lawsuit, this racketeering lawsuit filed against Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, Frank Giustra, George Soros, and a bunch of the other criminal racketeering Looney Tunes that have tried to steal a duly elected presidential nomination of Donald Trump in exchange for forcing Hillary Clinton down the throats of every single one of us. Now, let me just ask everyone, thank you for joining the live stream. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Make sure to click on the notification bell. Consider a super chat if you can financially donate to the channel. And let's continue. So I saw this indictment. Well, I keep saying indictment. It's not an indictment. It's a lawsuit. I keep seeing this lawsuit, and I read through a little bit of it when I saw it, and I was like, well, this isn't it. This isn't the happening, okay, as we're expecting and as we're really looking forward to. This lawsuit is a backup. This is a plan B, because if Horowitz is on the inside and he's going to be, a dirty cop, and he's not going to actually prosecute or push for the prosecution of these criminals, we have a backup here. So former Secret Service officer Gary Bryan has issued a racketeering lawsuit against this enterprise of criminals, including the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, Frank Giustra, George Soros, Media Matters, David Brock, etc. So that is a good backup. Additionally, I also want to point out to everyone here that we are watching the fact that the United States is going through monumental changes. I mean, just think of this. Let me put this into perspective for everyone. In the past 2 weeks, what has happened? North Korea. I'd say that's a pretty big boom. Peace with North Korea. Pretty big boom. We have the Trump administration announcing today that we're going to cover in just a few minutes the fact that the Department of Labor and the Department of Education are going to be combined. We have the immigration bill from the House from Goodlatte failed to go through. Every Democrat voted unanimously against it. 41 Republicans voted against it. It still means that we need to keep pushing this. We need to get immigration reform passed. We cannot let these congressmen sit there and get away with holding it off until 2019 or 2020, because that's what these people do. That's what gridlock is. What the Democrats did was gridlock. At least, I have to say, Republicans were honorable enough for those who felt that it was wrong to vote against the bill, parted with what the party was doing. I think that that's a good thing. Despite the fact that it hurt the efforts of this movement to get this immigration bill passed, it hurt the movement, but it's important for me to also point out to you that the Democrats unanimously voted against it. You're telling me that one Democrat out of the entire 190 of them didn't want any type of immigration reform? You can't show me one? They all vote unanimously because they all are groupthink. And so it's a dangerous way of thinking. These people aren't free thinkers. The Democratic Party is the personification of the deep state. They're the personification of the shadow government, of the billionaire class that is responsible for the economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. So, with that being said, I want to move over to the next segment here, because this, I believe, is quite important. And that is, there is a clip I'm going to play for every one of you right now. And this is Trump the Establishment. So we're going to watch this clip because it is super duper important. So let's watch this. I mean, this is what Donald Trump is doing. He's doing it right now. Donald Trump is enacting these changes right now, especially when you see the messaging in this video. I mean, a lot of people who have seen my content a lot have seen this video, but we need to rewatch it to understand the scope of this new government that's been announced.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
And we will make America great again. So let's go right over to this. We're going to watch this next piece. We're going to go right in order. This is Mick Mulvaney explains how the government is partially being restructured. And so we had President Trump announce a major overhaul plan during this cabinet meeting today, and Red Castle made a visit. Okay, we heard from Red Castle today. So let's watch this clip really quickly.
What I want to talk about is the government reorganization, very, very briefly. When we got into this, one of the things we learned was that it has been almost 100 years since anybody really reorganized the government at this type of scale. It's been since FDR and his New Deal, where he changed the way the government worked, and we haven't changed it very much since then, which means we're almost 20% into the 21st century, but we're...
So, in the previous speech that we just watched, President Trump said, "We are creating a new government that works that it works for you, the American people, and is not controlled by this centralized globalist, pedophile-controlled machine." He's building a new government, and this is what they're doing. This is proof of it, right here. This is what they're doing.
Dealing with a government that is from the early 20th century. This leads, Mr. President, to some bizarre results. In fact, the stories, you don't know where to start. Right now, because of the Byzantine nature of the way that we regulate in this country, if you have a cheese pizza, you make a cheese pizza, that is governed by the United States Department of Agriculture.
A cheese pizza is also known as a child. Why would he pick cheese pizza? Come on, why did he pick cheese pizza right there?
No, it's the other way around. I always get these backwards. If you make a cheese pizza, it's governed by the Food and Drug Administration. If you put a pepperoni on it, that's governed by the USDA. If you have a chicken, it's governed by the USDA. If that chicken lays an egg, it's governed by the FDA. But if you break the egg and make it into an omelet, that is now covered again by the USDA. If you have an open-faced roast beef sandwich, that's one or the other. But you put the bread on top of it, it's the other one. A hot dog, the hot dog meat is governed by one. You put it in a bun, it's governed by another. One of my favorites, if you have a saltwater fish, you have a salmon, and it's in the ocean, it's governed by the Department of Commerce. Once it swims upriver, it's governed by the Department of Interior, and to get there, it has to go up a fish ladder governed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This is stupid. This makes no sense. And
by the way, that was incredibly sad. I think you should put that on television, not what I said. That was very, that was very good.
Dealing with the small businesses. A long time ago, when I was 15 years old, I worked in a freezer for a guy that made frozen pizzas, right? Put yourself in that guy's business, and one day he's making cheese pizzas, and in the afternoon he's going to make pepperoni. He's got an entirely different federal agency to deal with, an entirely different process. It just simply doesn't make sense. So we're going to try and fix it. I want to go through a couple of examples today. I've asked Scott to sort of step aside to go over just one or two. A couple of them have made the press. We talk about this later, about the Department of Education and the Department of Labor being merged. We think that makes tremendous sense because what are they both doing? They're doing the same thing. They're trying to get people ready for the workforce. Sometimes it's education, sometimes it's vocational training, but they're all doing the same thing, so why not put them in the same place? This goes back to the work that I think Ivanka did very early on job training, when we learned that we had, in fact, we don't even know how many job training programs we have. Some people think there's 40, some people think there's 46. Some people think it's 47. We get it down to 16, and we put it all in one place so that if you're not happy or the next president is not happy with the way it's going, you don't have, right now, 16 different people around this table have workforce training programs in their agencies. If something is going wrong, you're going to come to me and say, Mick, why aren't you doing it right? I'm going to go, no, that's Scott Pruitt's fault, and that's Betsy DeVos's fault. When everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. And we're solving that by putting ed and labor together and making them responsible and them accountable. The other two things I want to talk about, two of my favorites, examples of how we think we can improve things. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans, local government, state government, you, me, from the private sector, have horror stories about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They perform some absolutely critical functions, Mr. President. There's no doubt about it. But over the course of the last century, their role has continued to creep and creep and creep, and we can do better. So the proposal today, you'll see, makes some important changes to the Army Corps of Engineers. The thing that is stuff that is really defense, and there's still things that Army Corps does that is defense. They stay there, and they should. The things that the Army Corps does that actually help defend the nation will stay where they belong, which is at the Department of Defense. But if we're dealing with the environment, and a lot of what they do deals with the environment, they deal with environmental mitigation and so forth, that goes over to the Department of the Interior, because y'all are really good at that. Similarly, ports, deep water ports, our lock system. That's not, it used to be a military thing 100 years ago. Now it's Elaine Chao at Department of Transportation because it's a transportation item. We think it's a much more efficient layout, and it ties in with what you talked about streamline our permitting process, and goes along with what Mr. Zinke's doing at the DOI to try and centralize. So there's one point of contact. You want to get a permit, you go to one federal agency. This is going to help that. Down here, we've talked a little bit about that one food safety thing. Right now it's at FDA, USDA, a couple of places. We move all that into the USDA. Why? Because they're really good at it. It's not to say the FDA isn't, but wouldn't it be nice to have one place where people can go to get answers, to get results, to get permits, and to deal with.
Just so that people are aware, the FDA is corrupt as fuck.
Regulatory affairs. At the same time, in all fairness, and Secretary Perdue would tell you this, there's things that USDA doesn't do as well as other agencies. So that's why housing, and they have a big housing component. Why wouldn't that be better off at housing and urban development? So we propose to move that to HUD. Similarly, for years they've handled the food stamp, the SNAP program. That makes absolutely no sense at all. HHS is uniquely set up to handle that. So we moved that and some other means-tested welfare programs over into HHS and to have it centralized so that we can deal with it. No one's ever tried it at this scale, Mr. President. President Clinton tried it a little bit. A couple other presidents have tried it, but no one's ever done it at this scale. And importantly, no one's ever followed through on it. No one's ever given the time commitment that these people around the table have given for the last year and a half, and no one's ever come up with the really big ideas like this. The stuff that President Clinton came up are peanuts compared to this. And every time someone comes to me and says, well, that's okay, this is never going to happen. This is great ideas, Mulvaney, but this doesn't have a chance. A couple of different things one of the biggest ideas, the Department of Education and Labor merger, actually doesn't get involved in jurisdictional battles on the Hill. One committee on the Hill handles those things now. Congress is actually ahead of us on this, which is really difficult to say. So there's a chance that we actually can get that done. But even if we don't get it done now, this is the generational kind of stuff that I think you asked us to do when you came to office. When Ronald Reagan said that government wasn't the solution, it was the problem, okay? It took 15 years after that for Bill Clinton to go on TV and say the age of big government is dead. This is a generational thing. Is this going to happen overnight? No. Some of it can, because some of the stuff we can do by ourselves on a regulatory fashion through the administrative process. Other stuff is going to take longer, but this is the stuff that's worth fighting for, and it won't get done unless somebody takes those first steps, which is what we're doing today. So thanks not only for giving us the time to do this, but the encouragement to do this, because it really helped to go back and say, look, push harder, push harder. This is important to the president. This is what he talked about when he said drain the swamp. And this is where we can show the people that voted for you, and even the people that didn't vote for you, that you care about good government and that we're going to make things a lot better. So anyway, that's all I've got.
So that was pretty damn good, in my opinion. And people asked me to find a 13-second clip of Bill Clinton being referenced by Donald Trump about being having an Epstein problem. So let's watch that.
Bigger issue. Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Barack Obama.
Who? I had never seen that before. That's pretty big. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to boogie on over here, and we're going to start looking at some Q posts, because everybody likes Q. So here are some Q posts. So we have some updates for today that I want to cover for us in the last few minutes of the broadcast. I'd also appreciate it if anyone could spread the links out to the broadcast, if they could subscribe to the channel, if they could follow me on the different platforms and stuff. That would help you get access to my content. So with that being said, let us move down here to reviewing some of these new posts. And of course, my computer is being a little slow right now. All right, so here's where we left off. So further down. All right, this is where we left off right here. So we have, does it get any more obvious than that? And so I did look at this, and I don't know if he's pointing at the Q person or at the old man. He could be pointing to the woman that's sitting beside him, or the child that possibly could be down here. I don't know. But there's a Q person here together. Where we go one, we go all. Hashtag winning. Are you sick and tired of winning yet? Hit the thumbs up if you like winning. So here we have, look for more direct confirmations. It's time. Q. Very good. So this boom from Representative Matt Gaetz. So this is 3 blocks, 2 blocks, 1 block. This is leading up to the anticipation of the removal of Rod Rosenstein. So here we have a little clip here. I'm going to play it for us so that we can watch it. Let's listen to this clip right here.
So we've had all this obstruction. This meeting takes place Friday. Paul Ryan, Devin Nunes, Gowdy Goodlatte, promising documents, or Ryan says he will join in the efforts to hold Rosenstein in contempt, and maybe that leads to the impeachment of Rosenstein. And from what I'm hearing, that may happen as early as tomorrow, Matt Gaetz.
Well, I'm just sick of the games and I'm sick of the delays. If we were really serious about oversight, we'd say the documents will be present at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And if they're not, at 10:01, we start the impeachment proceedings regarding Rod Rosenstein. I mean, you look at the facts you just discovered, Sean. The migration of people from the Hillary Clinton email investigation to the Mueller probe was about as voluminous as the migration across the southern border. And it's obvious that any prosecution or impeachment of Donald Trump would necessarily require Peter Strzok Strzok as the star witness. Well, if you had Peter Strzok as your star witness, you'd be wishing you had Mark Furman as your star witness. They threw the bum out of the building, and rightfully so.
Well, he still has a job, which is absurd. Andy, would you allow President Trump to testify before Mueller's group, considering we now know it was tainted from the beginning, and this corrupt team, from my perspective, Weissman, Ray.
I wouldn't have needed even all that, Sean. I don't see any upside for the president in sitting for an interview.
Thank you both. We appreciate it. When we
All right, so that was this piece, and it's talking about Rod Rosenstein, getting Rod Rosenstein out of the picture. So this is good news. And are they serious? Are. It's Rod Rosenstein. These are the different clues that QAnon has given. There have been different phases of them. And I want to read to you the different messages for these posts, because I have the summary. I think I have the summary right here. I guess I don't, but all three of these brackets are referring to a specific Q post with regard to Rod Rosenstein having modified the IG report, removed some of the names, and is obstructing justice. That's all that Rod Rosenstein is doing at this point. He is obstructing justice because it needs to get served. We need to get past this. The country has been damaged by the Clintons and by the racketeering enterprise that they have engaged in. So this post right here, number 1581, we serve at the pleasure of the president. We left the decision on timing to him. Today at the rally, he made his decision. Shift in tactics. Attacks. Q. Now that's what I call a VIP. And this is an anonymous with a picture of Q on their shirt being a VIP rally member. Why is this relevant? So we see here, this is the short video clip, VIP Anon reduced. So there's our Anon. So he's going to point. They don't show the pointing, but they do show him approaching the Q person. January 20th, 2017, June 20th, 2018. Exactly 17 months. Do you believe in coincidences? God bless you all, Q. So this one is a response to it. We told you proofs were going to be important very soon. New eyes. Be ready. 5-5. We thank you for your service. Q. In response to that, we have, we stand, we fight, together, organized riots being planned, resistance far smaller than portrayed by mainstream media, attacks will intensify. You collectively are a massive threat. Censorship applied to scale down impact or reach. It's failing. Trust yourself. Public awakening. Q. Huge news. And the last one here is Q&A Saturday. Time to be determined. So that was the last Q post. Let me go over to this. I want to explain some of the details here for you, because people are asking in the comments, what is 5-5? 5-5 is reference to an HRC video. What is this video going to contain? We don't know explicitly what it's going to contain yet, but I have a feeling that it's going to be the video of the tarmac meeting. I have a feeling that that's going to be the video that gets selected. And, I think it's also important for us to recognize here that who has their popcorn out? Who has their popcorn out? We're waiting for the finale. We're in the middle of the movie right now. We're watching it. But major things have been happening, folks. The Space Force is announced. The Korean Peninsula has been denuclearized. We have the success of the fact that child sex abuse and human trafficking have entered mainstream media news, resulting in the left, blowing their heads up over how evil Trump is about treating these children. Yes, we care about how awful those children are treated. We really, really do. Which is why Trump followed that outrage with the executive order stating that they will keep these immigrant families together as they go through the proceedings with Border Patrol. And the biggest thing that we need to recognize here is that the fact that human trafficking has made it out into the mainstream, the fact that child sex trafficking has made it into the mainstream, the fact that the Inspector General's report has made it out into the public, which is an official government document, talks about the Clinton Foundation and sex crimes with children. The fact that we have former Secret Service officer Gary Brine filing a lawsuit against the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Foundation, Frank Giustra, George Soros, and some of the other Looney Tunes that are involved in their criminal enterprise. This is huge, folks. We have a major, major shift in what's happening in the past 2 weeks alone. The president has been activated, the changes are taking place, and then we have more promises made during the campaign that President Trump is delivering on, and that is the fact that the reforming of the government is taking place. Trump said, we're going to create a new government for you, the American people, because the old government is broken. The system is broken. It's stupid. We have stupid trade laws. We have stupid regulations. We have so much, bloat to the size of the federal government. It's time to start shaving away the layers and reducing its size. You don't lose any national security interests by reducing the size of government. In fact, you can increase national security by getting rid of the New World Order, by getting rid of all of these globalists and elites who have been rigging the country and committing treason against the American people. It is finally happening. And I want people to recognize here that the successes of Donald Trump far outweigh the talking points that the left has about what he's been poor at completing, what he hasn't completed yet. This is a huge importance for us because we are watching the rebirth of the United States, the second great American revolution, and it is the space revolution. We are going to clean up our laws, we're going to clean up our prisons, we're going to clean up our schools, we're going to clean up our infrastructure, we're going to clean up our exploration endeavors, we're going to go to the stars, we're going to travel to other planets. This is the plan. We have been artificially held back by a group of people who have obtained massive, massive levels of power and who have been committing treason against the American people and against humanity in general for a very, very long time. And keep in mind also that President Trump has referred to the changes that are going to be taking place in Iran as being past tense, which means that Iran has been dealt with already, and now we're just watching the aftermath of how it's going to fall through. The Iran nuclear deal was a massive change for Iran, and it's a massive change for the European Union as well. Because keep in mind, the fact that the Iran nuclear deal opened up the financial systems of the United States to Iran through Europe meant that Europe's Islamization, the invasion of Europe, was perpetuated by the European Union partnering with the United States and Iran. The Obama United States, which was partnered with Iran, went to destabilize Europe at the bequest of George Soros and co. This is the reality of the world that we live in. I also want to point out to everyone here who thinks that this is all everything about, anti-democrats, anti-leftists, any individual citizen who identifies with that. Regular people who used to be Democrats, like myself, have a real opportunity now, to wake up. People all around the world have a chance to wake up. And it's really important for us to also recognize that Donald Trump's efforts to end corruption have been helping people who used to watch TYT, people who used to vote for Bernie Sanders, people who used to consider voting for Jill Stein. Donald Trump is pro-American. He isn't pro-Democrat. He isn't pro-Republican. He is pro-America, 100%. And if you're a Democrat, you are an American first. You're an American first. Your loyalties belong to your brothers and sisters. They belong to your fellow family members. They belong to your fellow countrymen. That's where your loyalties lie. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And we talk about going after George Soros and co. and the Clintons and the Justras and, the racketeering operation of the Democratic National Committee. You talk about that. Let's also talk about the fact that Paul Ryan, his power has been neutralized because he was a deep state asset, a controlled opposition deep state asset. The Koch brothers have been removed out of power. They're getting done. It's because that system isn't going to be allowed anymore. And I also want to mention here to everyone that Michael Bloomberg, is giving the Democrats $80 million for the midterms. That's what these people do. That's what these Democrats do. They're like, well, I've got millions of dollars. I'm just going to throw millions of dollars at the Democrats, and they'll continue to let all these illegal immigrants and MS-13 come in and decimate our local communities and violate our citizenry around the world through epidemic levels. We're just going to let that happen, and we're going to call everything good. That's who that is. Those days are over. We're in a monumental change about how society and culture works. This is a great awakening. People need to wake the fuck up, or you are going to get lost. You are going to be left behind. And with that being said, I want to thank every single one of you for being on the Michael Trim Show today, so make sure to subscribe, click on the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, on Gab, on Steemit, on DTube, on Vimeo, on YouTube. Click that notification bell, and if you can, consider becoming a Patreon supporter as well. Thanks a lot, everyone, and have a great night. Bye.